Perhaps we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bound. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
Good evening and welcome to a brand new week of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. We're so glad to have you all here, as Les Velez from OPUS will be here momentarily to talk about ET abductions and so much more. Dirty Filth is here with another crazy cartoon, and the best part about tonight, we have each and every one of you. How exciting is that? Including Kitty Caddywhack in the gold medal position, Mel WD-40 lubing up the silver, Tim Mothman and his goatee sharing the bronze medal tonight. Race fan, how you doing tonight? Paramarv, nice to see you. Tyler 420, what's going on, my friend? Joshua Schwab, Mangold, welcome to SOR chat. Robert Lamoth, nice to see you. And let's see here. Let me just go like this. Guys, please don't promote other radio shows in my chat room. Okay, appreciate that. Middletown Mike, a.k.a. Michael Morris, the attorney at large. How are you? Thunderhead, how's it going? Trucker Andrew, good to have you here. As we continue on with our roll call, Trucker Andrew will be signing autographs after the show. Line up to the left of the studio, if you don't mind, to the left of the studio. All right, scrolling on down. Necessary Dialogue, good to have you here. Frankie B, what's going on? Thank you for coming on in. Vonance Patrick from Edmonton. How are you, Vonance? Good to have you here, my friend, as we continue on with our roll call. And Trucker Andrew, thanks for kicking off the super chat tonight. We greatly appreciate your love and support of Spaced Out Radio. And welcome to the cryptid world, by the way. Good to have you here finally. Operation Shutdown, nice to see you as we continue on with our roll call here. Scrolling on down, we say hello to Creepypasta. How's it going? Eternity Eternal, thank you for coming on in. T-Bone, my man, good to have you here as we continue on with our roll call tonight. Number 37 in your program, starting in goal tonight from Stockholm, Sweden, Lars Jansson. He's got a 2.11 goals against average. Yeah, played 8 games this year so far out of the 14. He's doing well. Doug Shelby is here. The Doug Shelby has arrived, which means we can officially start this show. Scrolling on down, we say hello to Thomas Rock and Millennium, my man. Nice to have you here. And as we continue on, there's Delilah. How are you tonight? And who is next on our list? Well, let's take a quick peek here. Scrolling on down, 509er has returned. How you doing, buddy? It's been a while. Oob to Joe's Maine, you've got owls. Yes, you do. Fat Nuts, what's going on, my friend? Jeff Steve Garvey is here. He'll hit a home run for you, and he'll be signing autographs after the show as well. Line up to the right of the studio, if you don't mind. To the right of the studio. He only signs baseball gear. That's it. Bats, gloves, hats, baseballs, nothing else. Jay Trueseeker, nice to have you here. Al Garay on Twitch ran 14 miles on the treadmill in 17 minutes. The guy's legs are tired. He's got him up, and he's got him iced, but he's feeling good for tonight's show. Signs of Life, nice to have you here. NT Gangster, what's going on? Paul, how you doing, my friend? Good to have you here. Noble Patrick, it is always a pleasure to have you in the chat room, my friend. Good to have you here. as we continue on with our roll call. Flat 6, and I'm Hardcore over on X. How you doing? Free to think. Welcome to SOR Chat. JSCO, nice to have you here. Let's get the radio side going. Hello and welcome to the radio and podcast side of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott from the Opus Network. We are proud to have Les Velez in the show tonight talking about ET contact and so much more. We are in roll call on our YouTube side right now. And so we are going to say hello to Walter Kochubinski. How's it going? Nice to have you here as well. Let us say hello to Fast Hemi. Good to have you here. And that's it. We are caught up. Be like Andrew. The super chat is open. It's a wonderful way to support what we do on this show nightly because we're here nightly. You can shop at our Spaced Out Radio store. We do not have ugly swag. You can join our YouTube membership and go to make that cariboucon.com. Cariboucon.com. Get your tickets, VIP tickets on sale for a few months here right now. All right, Super Crazy, how are you? Throw your horns up, everybody. Let's rock.
Are you ready to hear your mystic voice of the night?
It's time to wake up.
He's here. Shush. Be quiet. He's ready for you to listen. Let's point our ears towards the little cabin in the woods, where together, my friends, we own the night. It's time for Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott.
From the mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on every major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. You can follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. We are in for an amazing show tonight from the Opus Network. Les Velez is coming in to talk about all things ET and alien abduction. Then in hour number 3, Swamp Dweller will join us for another creepy story. We're going to follow that up with the UFO wizard Josh Rutledge live tonight, once again, in hour number 3. So let's get right to it. We got a good friend of this show back on. Les Velez is a leading voice in UFO and alien abduction research, known for his groundbreaking work helping experiencers process and understand their encounters. A former U.S. Army officer and longtime MUFON investigator, Les co-founded the Organization for Paranormal Understanding and Support, called OPUS, a global network for offering guidance and community for people facing unexplained phenomena. With over 3 decades in the field, he has interviewed countless abductees and contactees, documenting the psychological, physical, and spiritual effects. Yes, as an author of The Unknown Other and the Existential Proposition of Alien Contact, Les explores what these encounters reveal about human consciousness and our place in the universe. opusnetwork.org is the website. Let's bring him on in. Les Velez, it is always a pleasure to have you on Spaced Out Radio. How you doing, my friend?
Dave?
My friend, it is so good to have you back on. It's been way too long, and I know you love these subjects at heart. You know, I mean, you've been doing this for 3 decades. Does it ever get boring? Do you ever say, man, you know, why am I doing what I'm doing?
Well, that's a good question. There have been times, in the past where I've said, okay, I think I've done my part, and I was going to back out, so to speak. And right away, I get sucked back in. it's like they don't want me to stop, whoever they are. Uh, what we've been doing as an organization, and as you say, we've been doing this for over 3 decades now, and it's been kind of a trip that has been so satisfying in the sense that we've been able to help a lot of people get through these experiences, and uh, and of course we've done it in various ways. By having a totally confidential online support group where we have over 500 people now from around the world that are conversing with one another and asking questions 24/7. And then we have a network of referral network of mental health practitioners and hypnotherapists that we can refer people to. And then we also have a more recent addition is our triage group, which we call our ESD, the Experiencer Support Team, that interfaces with these people when they first come into us through our website, and they talk to these people and find out how we can help them, or what is going on with them, and then finding out from them what they would like to see the outcome, resolution being.
I love it. And, you're one of the many groups, there aren't a lot, but you're one of the many groups who are trying to take care of people in these type of awkward situations. What's it like when somebody comes to you for the first time and says, I think I got abducted?
Yeah, and these people generally have already tried to talk to the family members, talk to clergy, talk to fellow workers, and found out that they didn't have a, a someone that was sympathetic to what was going on. A lot of them, thought they were crazy. They didn't want to deal with it. They didn't want to, have any discussions with them on the topic. Um, and so they don't know where to turn, and oftentimes they start looking through various means, whether it's going to the library or getting online and looking for groups, and eventually they end up finding us, and that's when the whole process starts. As you can see, our website is at opusnetwork.org, and we have it laid out in a way that is 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 welcoming, and the fact that it's a neutral place for people to go to. We don't draw any conclusions about these people. Um, we listen to what they have to say, and we try to point them in the right direction. And our triage group does a phenomenal job of working with these people and finding out how can we possibly help you. What issues are you having, and these people have got a lot of experience working with people, and being able to rather quickly point them in the right direction. And oftentimes, these people are just need confirmation that they're not alone, that other people are having experiences like this. This brings me back to when I first got started in all of this, back in the early 90s, uh, being an investigator for MUFON. And almost all the cases were not only sightings of craft, but people telling me that they had contact with non-human intelligences. And the first case that came to me like that, I was very skeptical. I was kind of a nuts and bolts kind of guy. And but then the next case, very similar. The next case, very similar. And so one day a person finally asked me, did I know of other people having similar experiences? And I said, yes, I do. And next thing is happening is I'm facilitating a support group in my office in San Jose, California. So it's been quite an interesting journey. All the books that I've read on the topic, whether it's Bud Hopkins or David Jacobs, people that have had a lot of experience with experiencers. The bottom line is I learned so much more working with the people in the support group and listening to their stories, which were pretty amazing.
Before we continue on with more UFO talk and ET contact,
Hmm.
I would be remiss, because this is Veterans Day in the US.
Hmm.
It is, Remembrance Day here in Canada. You're a veteran of the United States Army. Thank you so much for your service and your dedication to what you did. And I know that, this is always a trying time for every veteran who has served. It doesn't matter when they served, but do you care to share a story with us about your time in the military and how, or what Veterans Day / Remembrance Day means to you?
Well, I have an interesting story, that I always have to look up in the direction where God sits and say I was a very lucky person. Um, I went through the ROTC program at the University of Vermont and was commissioned as second lieutenant, and immediately went to Fort Sill, Oklahoma, to do my officers training in artillery. And this was near the end of the Vietnam situation, early 70s. And a lot of the guys in my group went straight over to Vietnam out of that training, 3 months of training. And I got orders to go to Fort Dix as a training officer in New Jersey. And I had 2-year active and 4 years reserve time. And as it turned out, I was there for 18 months, and I'm saying to myself, oh my goodness, I'm not going to get orders for Vietnam. I'm going to spend it all here at Fort Dix, which at the time was that the Vietnam situation was horrible. I mean, they were fragging officers, they're throwing hand grenades down the bunkers because the troops didn't want to go out in the field anymore because of such a shit show. So at that point, when I had this thought, I got my orders for Vietnam. And I was married at the time, and my wife and my dog, I had a camper, VW camper bus, and we camped across the country. And she was going to stay with her sister near San Jose while I was over in Nam. And in this little town next to San Jose called Los Gatos, they had a wine festival that was going on. So my wife and I were there every day crying into our wine, if you will, that I was going over to Vietnam. And about a week later, a week before I was supposed to ship out, I got a call from a buddy of mine at battalion headquarters back at Dix. And he says, this major at the Pentagon needs to talk to you. So I said, okay. So I called the guy up, and he says, your tour duty's been cut by 2 months. Therefore, we have to give you a choice of whether or not you want to go to Vietnam. And he says, if you don't go, somebody's going to have to go in your place. And I said, well, I hope the next guy is as lucky as I am, because I'm not going, because this was a terrible situation at the time. So he says, then where do you want to be stationed? I said, well, I'm out here on the West Coast. Fort Ord would be a nice place to go. It's close. I get my orders. They sent me all the way back to Fort Dix. They didn't have a training slot open for me. The only thing that was open was running a battalion mess hall, which I did, which I knew nothing about. But the master sergeants in this man's service know all the games and all how to work everything. So I just stayed out of his way and let him run it. So the story is that to this day, I thank God that my service, I trained a lot of people. I worked with a lot of drill sergeants and did a lot of that kind of thing. But for me personally, not having to go over there was just miraculous. To this day, I don't know how that happened. It just was phenomenal. I was very lucky. So, and I thank to this day all the guys that went over from my class that never came back, and feel for their families that they had to go over there and participate in a war that was horrible, absolutely horrible. And of course, the outcome of that was when all these guys came back that did come back, they were treated like shit. They were treated like shit. And so that's very, very sad. And I'm so happy now that we are recognizing all of our troops. And I have many friends that are military people that have gone through that Vietnam situation and come through it finally, after dealing with PTSD and things of that nature, which we deal with these people that are having experiences with these non-human intelligences. A lot of them have that PTSD situation going on because it was so mind-blowing, so dramatic that this thing was happening to them. So
It is an ugly situation. Can you imagine if, say, in Vietnam or even at the early stages of the Gulf War, when they actually had, if they had the social media technology of today, where people are uploading these horrific videos of these wartime situations?
mhm.
I mean, it makes me just absolutely ill, to watch some of these that come across my feed. And
Mhm.
I couldn't imagine how the American populace would react, or any populace, even the Canadian populace or the British or the Australian or whoever would react if a Western country was putting up, or had its soldiers putting up, uh, that type of footage onto social media.
Yeah. Oh, sure. No question about it. Times have changed dramatically, and social media can be a positive, but and unfortunately, it can also be very negative and destructive. And that's what's happening in many cases when people are reading a lot of false stories, a tremendous amount of false things going on out there in that world, which is tragic. You don't know what to believe anymore.
Oh,
Is
I
this
hear you.
real? Is this AI? Hello.
That's a good shift right there. Once again, thank you so much for your service and everything that you did to protect not only the United States, but Canada and the rest of the world. Thank you very much for you. I
You,
appreciate you.
you bet.
AI,
Yes.
it is going to be a major benefit or a major flaw to ufology. Your
It can
thoughts?
it can be both, and unfortunately, we've already dealt with it as an organization where we had an experiencer come to us and telling us about the fact that he had this conversation with Chat GPT that basically told him not to go to a therapist and not to do certain things. Um, it can be very dangerous, and already there's been lawsuits about teenagers, young adults that been getting on these various AI sites and having these conversations that have caused them to commit suicide. So, excuse me, it's tragic. So there's a real bad side to this AI, but the opposite side of it is that it could be a very useful tool in trying to understand um, these entities in a more fully. Matter of fact, one of the things that we're doing right now, we're in the second phase, almost finished the second phase of the Omega 4 project. That I have one of our board members, who's a psychologist, is been working with the not only therapists but also with their clients that have had experiences, and we're finding out some really interesting things about the interaction, getting the personality of the non-human intelligences, and it's one of the facts that we came up with was that one of the most critical things when these people are interfacing with these entities is honesty. a feeling of honesty that evidently is coming through to the experiencer. And so that's why we're getting numbers like in the 70s and 80s where these people don't want these things to stop. So a very small percentage of people want them to stop, but the majority, especially after, 5 or 6 experiences, want this thing to continue. So we have a lot more information. We plan to publish this, and as soon as we get ready to do something like that, I can come back on here with the gentleman. His name is Russ Scalpone, who's actually crunching all the numbers, all the statistical information. We can come on and do a show like that and go through the things that we have found.
Do you think that as of now and moving on into the future, until there is some sort, if there ever will be, some sort of control of AI and what it can and cannot do, especially when it's newsworthy, do you think that videos are now officially useless?
Well, I mean, the big thing with AI is is it real or is it Memorex, as they say? uh, that to me is the biggest problem that I see, other than people depending upon these AI programs telling them, quote unquote, the truth, if you will. Um, AI can be, in the medical field, can be tremendous. I mean, coming up with ways to look at look at Watson, IBM's medical intelligence platform that is remarkable, and that's all AI. And so there's a lot of good things that can come out of it, but there's also the bad side, unfortunately, and there are people out there that are certainly going to use it for the wrong reason.
I just hope that we can come to some conclusion, because there are people having real experiences. There are people
Mhm.
having real insight to what is going on. And, we watch the disclosure movement kind of falling apart as we see it. Some people are still holding on. No, no, we're getting closer. We're getting closer. But many of us believe that it is starting to fall apart. With 90 seconds to go, Les, before we go to break,
Mhm,
your
mhm.
your thoughts on where this movement comes from. Does it go back to the people? Are we heading back to the people rather than the science and the military?
Uh, I'm not sure I understand the question. What's the question again?
Towards disclosure.
Oh, towards disclosure. Oh, well, I think, yeah, we've hit sort of a minor pause button, I think, with what's going on. I mean, we got the government still shut down here in the United States. They're worrying about other things other than, are we actually interfacing with non-human intelligences? So I think eventually we will come to the point where this is going to be fully opened up. I and it's a battle. There's no question about it. I mean, you got two camps. One camp wants it open, the other camp doesn't want it open up. And so um, AI, who knows? It could be a useful tool in helping with that. Uh, but right now, I think that we just have to be quote unquote patient, a little more patient, and because I think like people like Danny Sheehan they're bulldogs. They're still in the fight, and they're going to keep pressing. And they've got a film coming out, I guess, the end of the month on disclosure, and so they're going to keep taking a swing at the ball coming in,
For sure.
and hopefully they'll get a home run on this thing eventually.
Get you to hang on right there. Les Velez is here from the Opus Network. Opusnetwork.org is his website. When we return, ET abductions, aliens taking people. We will be right back, everybody. All right, we are clear. Just a quick reminder, Les, if you don't mind, I should have said this prior to the show.
Am
I am
moving
going
too
out
much?
on terrestrial radio, so the swearing doesn't really work.
Oh, okay.
I know. I can't believe shit is still banned, but apparently it is.
Oh, okay.
Shelley Heaton, how are you? Nice to have you here. Who else has joined us here? Well, let's see. Francis Tremblay, welcome to SOR chat. And bonjour, Francis. If you're French, I think we're caught up. I think I've got everybody. Yeah, I got everybody now. I do. It's good times when you're here, buddy. Les, you said it was going to be about 80 degrees there tomorrow.
Well, the end of the week it is.
Oh,
You're gonna be
well,
back up in the
you're in
80s.
a cold snap then.
Yeah, we got it below freezing last night. So, but we're not going to have that tonight. And yeah, it's just wacky. We had a cold front come down from up north and blessed us with a little bit of chill. No problem. No problem.
I'm in the process of procrastination right now because
Okay.
I have these really cool lasers that I point up in my front of my house.
Mm-hmm.
I have about 9, 10, 70, 80 foot tall fir trees.
Mm-hmm.
And I have these laser beams that I stick up there for Christmas. So all my trees look like they're glittering all the time.
Oh, cool.
It looks pretty badass. It does. But I'm procrastinating because I know I should do it now while the weather is warm so I can get the pegs into the ground.
Oh, yeah.
Right. But stupid Dave is going to be like, oh, no, I got time. I'll do it tomorrow. I'll do it tomorrow. And eventually
You'll have a you'll have a blizzard and then you won't be able to
next thing
do
I
it.
know, I'm going to have like 3 feet of snow in my front yard. I'm going to be trying to plant these stupid things in there.
Right.
Because at any time it could go from where it is now, and right now we're at like 43 degrees, 6 degrees Celsius, and it could go drop to like -10 and the ground frozen in like 2 days, right? Then I'm going to be like, you idiot, Dave. Why didn't you just put them in when you should have? But that's me.
Yeah. That's what I have a wife for. She does the decorating.
Blue Cruz, how you doing? Teen, how's it going? Yeah, what's that? 26 Fahrenheit feels like 18 here. Should I bring my peace lily? 26 Fahrenheit? Yeah, 26 Fahrenheit is finally jacket weather. You don't have to wear warm pants, but as long as you have a good pair of socks on, you're fine. The coldest I've been in up here is -40.
That's cold. That's cold.
Yeah.
I've been in -60 in Minnesota.
Not me, man.
Ooh, man, the snow squeaked.
Yeah. I have watched it snow here. I never knew this was possible. I had watched it snow here in blue sky, but the air is so cold it creates snow.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
interesting.
It's cool.
I've heard of thunder snow, but I've never heard of blue sky snow.
Yeah. I didn't think it was possible either. Really did not. Okay, who just came in here? Where are you? Grant, how you doing up in Quesnel? Nice to have you here. And Gary J, how are you? And a big thank you to our lone super chatter, Trucker Andrew. He's the man kicking things off tonight. We really appreciate the love. The super chat is a wonderful way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis. You could join our YouTube membership. And of course, you could shop at our Spaced Out Radio store. We do not have ugly swag, people. No ugly swag. So make sure you go check it on out. We're coming up with the second half hour right now. Here comes the second half hour of Spaced Out Radio. Good to have you with us. My name is Dave Scott. We appreciate you tuning us on in wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hey, we want to remind all of you that if you missed portions of this show or others, you can always check out our free archives on YouTube or any major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com, we have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire. Check out our swag as well. You can follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. From OPUS Network, opusnetwork.org, we have Les Velez here coming on in to talk about some pretty interesting stories about alien abduction. Les, thank you so much for being here tonight.
Oh, thank you, Dave, for having me. Appreciate it very, very much.
For people maybe tuning in for the first time, explain what an alien abduction is.
Well, this is not something where somebody from Mexico crossed over the border, okay, and took somebody back to Mexico. This is people telling us that they've had contact with non-human intelligences. These non-human intelligences, okay, whatever they may be, all right, have taken them, okay, from wherever they happen to be at the time of the abduction, whether it's in a bedroom, whether it's in a car, whether it's camping, whether it's out for a jog, anything can happen at any time, anywhere, and that they tell us that they're brought on board a craft of some sort. They're put on a table. They're poked and prodded, and various fluids are taken from a male being sperm, female eggs, things of that nature, blood. And then sometimes they're implanted with a device, which the person comes back with. A lot of times they don't even know that this has been done until something happens where they might notice that they have an irritation of some sort, that this implant may be bothering them. So they go to a doctor, and then they do an x-ray, and they find out, well, there's something there, but how did it get there, and what is it? And of course, we've had people like the late Dr. Roger Lear, who actually looked at 17 people, and they looked at these objects that they removed from these people, and they're definitely not from this plane, this Earth. And I can tell you some interesting details about that, but we can get into that a little bit later. So that's basically what happens, and then these people are brought back to wherever they were taken from. In a lot of instances, they may have their clothes on inside out, or not their clothes, somebody else's clothes. There's all kinds of things. They come back with marks on their bodies, things of that nature. A lot of these people have conscious recollection of the incident happening, and there's always parts that are very vague, and so a lot of times these people are really anxious to try to find out a little bit more about what occurred to them. So, alien abductions, is it extraterrestrial in nature? Is it interdimensional in nature, which has been brought up at the congressional hearings? Grush talked about that these things are likely interdimensional entities. Is it time travelers? You talk about the Rendlesham Forest case, where they talk about the fact that these entities were 40,000 years in the future. Or is it our military, which I believe it could be all the above. It's fascinating. It's absolutely fascinating. There's something going on, and this is millions of people have had this happen to them. The Roper organization back in early 90s did a survey that Bud Hopkins and David Jacobs and put together for Bigelow. Bigelow funded it, and basically the number was like 6 million people in the United States have had an experience like that. Well, my latest theory is the fact that I believe we've all had an experience, whether we consciously remember it or not. I'll give you an example of that. One day in the support group back in San Jose, person said to me, "I've seen you before." I said, "Oh, really? Where? UFO conference?" No. I saw you on board the craft. And I said, "Really? Oh, that's interesting." And I kind of blew it off. And it was like a year and a half later that a totally different person in the group said to me after the meeting, "I've seen you before." And I said the same thing. "We're at a UFO conference?" No. "You were sitting on this bench naked on board the craft and you were freaking out. And they told me to go over to you to calm you down." Well, after this person said that, I decided, okay, I have to go get regressed because I have no conscious recollection of this at all. And I had 3 separate regressions, and I've had multiple past lives, but I didn't come up with anything related to being abducted and being on board a craft. However, in a subsequent conversation I had with a totally different person, they said, well, maybe somehow they saw you in a past life. There's some kind of connection, because what happens frequently in these abductions is that time and space is warped, is changed. They're able to manipulate it in a way that they can bring you back before they took you, type of a thing. And missing time is another factor that people talk about. One of the cases that's in my book, The Unknown Other, is a couple. They were amateur pilots, and they were picnicking in a state park north of Santa Cruz, and it was getting to be dusk, and they were coming out. It's hilly, and they noticed this light over the ocean, and it started to get bigger and bigger and bigger until it was over their heads. And it was a triangular craft about the size of a small Learjet. And it had lights in the corners, your typical black triangle type of a thing. And it didn't make any noise at all. And they watched this as it passed over their head and went behind them into this canyon. And it sat there, kind of doing the butterfly thing. And they noticed another light over the ocean. And same thing happened. It got bigger and bigger until it was over their head. And the first craft that came in, they were looking at it. The second one, they felt it was looking at them, and they became frightened. And they backed up underneath this big old pine tree. And this craft went back into that same canyon and sat next to the other craft. And they were just sitting there doing this little moving, like, up and down motion. Long story short, they then felt very strange, and they felt like they were floating, and they started to go down out of the park. And this trail, I went up there with them, is steep and dark, because it's highly wooded, a lot of stones and things like that. It's not an easy path to go down during the day, but at night, I mean, it's even worse. But they seemed like they floated down out of there. They got to their car, and that's the last thing they remember until 3 hours later. They're in a restaurant about 10 minutes away from there. It wouldn't take 3 hours to get there. It's only 10 minutes away from where they were. And I had no recollection of how they got there. Well, after this incident, they both came down with a rash. Now that area it's got a lot of poison oak, poison ivy up in there. So they figured it might be something like that. So they went to the doctor to get something. And the doctor said, no, this is not poison oak or poison ivy. I'm not sure what it is. And I think they went to his doctor first. And then she decided, well, I'm gonna go check this out with my doctor. And he says, well, it might be some reaction to something, but I don't know what it is. They took a picture of this rash and they brought it to one of the support group meetings, and they showed it around to all the people in the group. And almost without exception, they all had a similar rash. So one of the people in the support group that day said, I think I know what it's from. And so we said, okay, what do you think it's from? Well, it's probably a reaction to the fluid that they dip you in when they bring you on board the craft to sanitize you. So that blew everybody's mind. The story gets even more interesting because this is like 30 years ago that this whole thing happened. I got a call about 4 months ago from that same couple. She now has conscious recollection of what happened, and she said she was dipped in a fluid on board the craft.
No kidding.
Yeah. So I tell you, these are the kind of stories that just absolutely blow your mind, and there's just tons of them out there, tons of them out there. I really believe that we've all had some kind of a interface with these entities at one time or another, whether we consciously remember it or not.
We
It's
hear so
amazing.
many people talk about these different entities. Usually it's the grays,
Mhm.
sometimes it's the mantids, other times it's, reptilians or humanoids
Mhm.
or insectoids or whatever it may be. I mean, some of it sounds so Star Trek and so science fiction, yet these people who've had these ultimate experiences are absolutely genuinely believing they're telling the truth. And I'm saying that as an experiencer myself. I've
Mhm.
never seen any of the weird ones like a mantid or anything like that. All my connections have been with grays.
Mhm.
Okay. But
Sure.
the idea that so many people are having these weird occurrences happen to them.
Yep.
If you say have an encounter with, say, the tall grays, does that mean the mantids or the reptilians or the humanoids are going to come spend time with you, or are you stuck with that one group?
Oh, it's usually multiples at the same time. I mean, you have the small grays that usually do the abduction. Okay, they bring you on board the craft, and then the tall gray may start the process, be in charge of somewhat of the process, and then you have the the mantid type, praying mantis type, that seems to be overall. And then a lot of times you might have a Nordic sitting in the background, or a military person, full dress uniform. So our government definitely has relations with certainly one group of entities. This Israeli general that wrote that book, Haim Shed, talked about the fact that we've had dealings with and agreements with these aliens, and they don't want to come out yet because we're not ready to hear that, I guess. We have bases on the moon. We have bases on Mars. We're doing everything. But, you know, we poor little earthlings here don't get the full story. And unfortunately.
What is the real story? Because there are many from the inside who don't believe any of this is going on. People who've worked at black op projects, people who have worked at secret bases. They all feel that this is one big game. I mean, how do we know this is truly going on?
Well, I think, the combination of these people that are having experiences, which, these people do not have a psychopathology. Uh, they do exhibit temporal lobe activity that's different than control group who have not had experiences, which is an interesting factor. Gary Nolan from Stanford talks about the fact that these people that have telepathic capabilities and psychic abilities have a lot more connections between the caudate and putamen in their brains, which is fascinating in and of itself. It's almost like an evolutionary process that's going on, but I don't think it's evolutionary. I think it's been manipulated by these non-human intelligences probably eons ago, and that's why they follow families. It's generational. It's absolutely generational, and we are in a process of seeing humankind evolve to the next level, where we all are going to have this psychic capability, and being able to telepathically communicate with one another. It's coming. It's going to be here, and it's probably going to be a little bit, a little bit longer before that happens, but it's going to happen, I believe, because these people are communicating with one another already, and they're starting to have families that have that whole ability, that incredible ability. And so how do you compete against something like that? You're going to have a hell of a hard time. And so we that don't have that capability are going to disappear. We're just going to go away.
The fact that we have real people going through these real encounters, what's one recently that you've had that really caught your attention, that just maybe made you scratch your head?
Well, yeah, I mentioned it earlier to you that we get people contacting us through our website, and they're looking for support. So I want to read a little bit about this one person that sent us a request.
We have 6 minutes for you.
6 minutes, okay. Here's this gentleman's story. When I was 9, I woke up in the middle of the night, and there was a gray in my room. It scared me so much that I pulled my covers over my head. By the time I mustered up the courage to come out from under the covers, it was gone. The gray didn't communicate with me or touch me, but I feel like something was done to me. I've seen UAP multiple times. I've had precognitive dreams, intuition, lucid dreams, and spontaneous astral projection events. Oddly, I'm susceptible to bacterial infection, but I don't get viruses. I haven't had a virus since I was young. I cannot shake the feeling that something was done to me. I feel like these entities have been visiting me since I was a child. When I was a child, even before the previously mentioned encounter, I had a fear of the classic alien gray. This fear just came out of nowhere. It wasn't caused by a scary movie or TV show. Anytime I saw a picture or a depiction of a gray as a child, I would recoil in fear and look away. When I was a child, I also had an encounter with a strange, large owl-like entity with glowing red eyes. Me and my little brother were waiting for the school bus when we heard a loud, terrifying shriek. When we looked in the direction of the noise, we saw what looked like a giant owl with glowing red eyes perched in a tree to our right. I jumped back and got behind my book bag. My little brother also reacted in fear and got behind me. When I looked out from behind my back, it was gone. We didn't hear it take off or rustle the branches when it left. Me and my brother never spoke of it after that, which is one of the classic things. When two people have an experience, they generally don't talk about it. Let's see, where did I leave off here? Me and my brother never spoke about it after that. I had an extremely vivid lucid dream as a teenager. I remember having a normal dream and then being pulled or plucked out of the dream by an outside force into a separate conscious space where I was fully awake and alert. There was a blue humanoid entity there. It seemed to be made of blue energy. It had painted on facial features, even though it seemed like its eyes, nose, and mouth were painted on with white paint. It still, for some reason, looked natural and not painted on. It spoke to me telepathically and said, "Fear not, for I am with you always." I woke up right after it spoke to me. I believe the phenomena is deeply rooted in consciousness, which you mentioned earlier about consciousness. That we are aware because of our connection to consciousness, in that consciousness is a realm where intelligent entities reside. I seem to have some sort of connection to it, but I can't control or direct the abilities or gifts that may arise from the connection. So, I mean, and these are the kind of things that we get, I mean, almost on a daily basis from people that are just incredible stories. And, you know, he mentioned the owl. I mean, that's been talked about by many experiencers, that these things are screen memories that they're able to put out there, and so that it's less scary, I guess, in a way. But the red eyes, I think that would bother me.
Yeah, no kidding. No kidding. You know, but to me, after reading that story, it really sounds like this person was almost haunted by these beings.
This is a person that probably would like it to stop. Obviously, he
Yeah.
wants these to stop. But then again, they often, when they have two choices when they contact us. One is that to be put into the online support group, and the other one is to have a EST member or triage group contact them. And 9 times out of 10, they want both. They want to be able to talk to other people and know that they're not the only ones having these experiences.
Oh, for sure. For sure. How do you tell whether or not somebody's just lucid dreaming, having
Mhm.
nightmares, or actually having ET connections?
Yeah, I think you have to look at all the information that these people are telling you. I mean, his feelings about being frightened by the look of a gray alien. Remember when Whitley Strieber's book Communion came out? That freaked out so many people.
I
Okay.
still never finished that book.
and so you have to listen to the story, and when you listen to these people talk to you, you know that they're coming from a place where they've had a mind-bending experience, and they're trying to deal with it and trying to understand it, and oftentimes it's very difficult that to resolve some of these things, and so you know that they're not okay, I can't use that word. They're not blowing smoke up your tailpipe.
Right.
uh, and you know, and a lot of them, you know, have marks on their body that they know that they weren't there before, and so you put the whole story together. You got to piece the whole story together and make a decision. And we've had people come to us where we've recommended that they do need help that we can't give them.
Right.
That they need to go to a psychiatrist or a psychologist. Just based on the conversations that we have with them, and but we don't you know, we don't turn anybody down. We
Let me
listen
get
to
you to
all of
hold
them.
on right there. Les Velez from the Opus Network is here on Spaced Out Radio. We're done 1 hour. We'll get him for another. right after this. This is Spaced Out Radio with host Dave Scott. All right, Les, we are clear. We got about 5.5 minutes, so we're going to turn things over to the dirty one here to show us his nice cartoons.
Oh, yeah. Cool. Oh, I like that.
Hi, Dave. Bye, Dave. Hi,
Hello,
Les.
dirty.
Hi. Yeah, that's
we
great.
we have Alan with his winter attire on today, and he's taking up hockey this year, so we're not sure how Alan's going to handle a couple stiff body checks into the boards or anything, but he'll get there, and hopefully he can stand himself well.
That looks great. That looks great.
It's actually going to be accompanied by a plushie.
Oh, very good. I'm going to step out for a second and get another water. Be right back.
He's getting a double vodka, everybody. I hope everyone's having a wonderful evening. Les is an awesome guy. I had the honor and privilege to meet him at the Spaced Out Radio party. Boy, when was that? 2023, if I remember correctly. And I still have his business card. He's a good guy. Unfortunately for him, he got stuck in the elevator with me and shoot the breeze a little bit. And I think I gave him an art card or two, and we had a good time anyways. He was a nice guy. So we're almost done this guy here. So hello, Tim and Beard, just two separate entities. And Paulie Roterman and Joe Monk and T-Bone and probably everybody else I missed. All right. Time for the signing of the drawing, which is very important. It's the very end of the drawing. Let's see here. Oh, also, I would like to send a special shout out to all the veterans in America, Canada, and specifically PPCLI, and specifically on top of that, Corporal Wayne Joy. I appreciate everything that you do, sir, and you're a wonderful man, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your evening, because I know you're listening. Alrighty, here we go. Sign this bad boy, and I have to show a secret little drawing out of the book here, because I've been sharing little bits and snippets of that. This pen is totally dying on me. There's not much I can do about it, but I'll have to just take a trip to the art store. Filthy.com. This is Alan. Winter edition. Hello, Les.
Yeah, hi.
Here, I have I'll show. I can show you what the this is this drawing that's going to go with the soon to be created plushie for the winter one. But I still have Carl the alien from his summertime run that we did, and he's got his little Speedo on.
Very good.
That's awesome. My accomplice turns all my cartoons into plushies and whatnot.
Oh, that's neat. That's
So
neat.
we get a little racket going on now. But I was going to show everybody here. This is how Canadians get a massage, and I was able to use my friend Dave Scott. So Dave takes a break and gets pampered. He's like, "Can you whack my spine a few times with a hockey stick, please?" And oh, that's how they do it in Canada. Sasquatch whacks you over the spine.
Yeah. Oh, great. Alan.
Also,
yeah. That's where I live.
had this-
Allen, Texas.
Allen, Texas. I've been to
Allen,
Houston
Texas.
once.
Yep.
It was way too hot. I'm from Edmonton, so it's just
yeah. Oh,
here's a photo of Dave at the Golden Nugget a couple years ago,
Oh,
playing against Carl the Alien, losing miserably, and the joke goes to saying, "Hey Dave, what animal always wins at poker? A bluffalo."
Oh
Of course,
no.
Dave's got all he's got left is his underwear and socks. So he's not doing very good against the aliens. So
No, not at all.
poor guy.
That's great. Good stuff. Good stuff. I like it.
And
I
then
like it.
I also got this beauty with the legendary Lon Strickler being chased by Mothman trying to steal his beard.
Give me the beard. Lon's encounter.
Yeah, he's even got
That's
his
great.
14 shirt on. It's just out of control.
14. Oh my goodness. Yeah, you gotta look closely, please.
So there we go. This will be
Oh.
another one for the catalogs there. It eventually goes into frame, and then
Mhm.
plush gets made for it, and
That's great.
back
Good
stickers
work.
and all stuff. And
Good work. Good work.
if you're not doing much next year, you should come to the Spaced Out Radio thing again in Vegas.
Yeah, for sure.
You'll have to ask Dave what the time frame is on that.
I got
one.
it. I got
think
it. May 21. May 21
Oh.
through the 24th. I got it. I
Well, I'll
wrote,
be
I
there
wrote it
and I'll-
down already. I wrote it down
Oh,
already.
nice.
Yeah.
I'll be there. Like 99% chance I'll be there, and I'll give you another art card or two.
Oh,
Right.
cool.
Gentlemen, we're coming back in 10 seconds. And thank you tonight to Sally, T-Bone, and Trucker Andrew for the super chats. And thank you, Dirty Filth. You're amazing. And here we go. Hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio is now kicked off. Thank you for joining us. My name is Dave Scott. We greatly appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on every major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. You can follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Refocillate. Refocillate is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. From opusnetwork.org, Les Velez is here hanging out with us, talking about ET contact and people who have reported having alien abductions and alien encounters, not with people here on Earth, but with those from somewhere else. Les, it's always an interesting conversation. What kind of patterns do you see when people file a report with the Opus Network at opusnetwork.org? Is there a pattern that you follow?
Well, there's a basic pattern with all of these, of course, is the fact that these people are coming to us because they've had an experience where they feel it is certainly paranormal in nature, out of the norm, and they are trying to better understand it. So that's the basis of why they show up, because they've had an experience, they don't understand it. They're trying to get answers to why me, why is it happening to me? What is it? So there's the very basic things that people come to us are very standard in a way, but each individual situation, there's nuances to it. So I as I said earlier, these people are taken wherever they may be, taken somewhere, a lot of times to inside of a vehicle, if you will, some type of a housing, and put on a table, examined, poke prodded. That's all very, very standard type stuff. And so then the big question is, how do I get out of this if that's what they're looking for? Or how do I get to a point where I can accept this and be comfortable with it so I could go on with my life? Because it's such a a shock to the system, an ontological shock that happens to them when this occurs. A lot of people who have no interest whatsoever in the UFO field, um, all of a sudden have an experience like this, and it's mind blowing, absolutely mind blowing, and they're looking for some kind of confirmation that, one, they're not crazy, because most of them think they are going crazy. They're I'm, I must be going crazy if this is happening. And then if they go to a therapist that's not familiar with the topic, and if it's a psychiatrist or something, they want to recommend pills. Okay, take some drugs to relax you or whatever. And but that's not the ultimate solution. The ultimate solution is to understand that they're not alone. They have someone that they can talk to, that has had similar experiences. And so, and we've done a couple of studies now where we've found that these people do not have a psychopathology. They're not crazy. And so when you rule that out, then what's next? The next part is the fact that something happened, something very significant happened, and that's where we jump off from there, and then go to see, do you need to talk to a therapist? Do you need hypnotherapy? If that's, you feel comfortable with doing that, because what we always recommend to these people, like, hey, you may not want to know what happened. um, once that toothpaste is out of the tube, it's hard to put it back in. So we always counsel that you need to be very, very sure that you want to go through with that process. And so we have certified, we vet these people, you know, very, very, very thoroughly, to make sure they have the proper credentials, they have the proper experience. And so whether it's a mental health practitioner or a hypnotherapist. And then what we found to be the most helpful, though, is the support group. Being able to talk to other people that have had similar experiences. This seems to be one of the most effective ways to get people through these experiences.
When we have people who are having these encounters, okay, there are people, as you mentioned, who have family lineage of this happening. But then there are people out of the blue who all of a sudden start having alien encounters. Maybe they saw or had a close encounter with a UFO. Maybe they had a close encounter with an alien in the forest like I did. Okay. How do these ETs seem to pick and choose outside of the lineage? How do they pick and choose who they're taking and why? Have we figured that out?
Well, the majority, I mean, we've had two groups basically. The Native American Indians have long told stories about this. Okay, they seem to focus on that group a lot. And military people is another group that seems to have a large focus on, uh, and then of course the family lineage. Other than that, what we found too is that when a person comes to us and we ask them, part of the triage working with these people is, now, have your parents or your grandparents had any experiences like this? And a lot of times they don't know. They don't know. And then we ask them, well, you feel comfortable in asking them, have they had any kind of, 9 times out of 10, when they come back, they find out that yes, either their parents or their grandparents had some kind of a incident. But beyond that, it may be just following some kind of a experiment that which I believe is what's been going on. is that they've created us, okay, over the eons, and they continue to follow their experiments. It's just like, okay, take the example of going out and getting a dolphin, okay? Biologists go out there, and they'll pull a dolphin out of the pod, if you will, by happenstance. All right. They tag it, they take blood, they measure it, they do all kinds of things, and then they throw it back in the water. And a year later or so, they're out there, they catch the same one. They do the same thing again, and then throw them back in the water. So sometimes it just happens to be the luck of the draw, if you will, that it may happen like that. But a lot of times it's very family oriented. Now, I can't ask my parents because they're both gone, but and I never really talked to them much about, uh, except for that when I was 11 years old and I was living in Connecticut, and I saw this object close to the house, scared the hell out of me, ran in the house. By the time I got my father to come out, it was gone. He says, "Oh, it's just a beacon of light reflecting off a cloud," because it was late October. It was already dark, and this thing was silent, no noise, no nothing. And and then he blew it off, and so I went to the library thereafter and started reading books on UFOs, and kind of that's got me started in this whole field, actually, which never really left me.
We're going to get to some audience questions here in a few minutes, but I'm curious regarding the stories that you have collected. I know you have a couple to share with us.
Hmm, hmm. Yeah,
Is
yeah,
it, is
yeah.
let me just ask you this: does age have anything to do with it?
Well, a lot of times, what we found is that early childhood seems to be a marker that's pretty significant. And then also childhood trauma, which may have been caused by the experience, but also it opens up people to a sort of a dissociative uh, uh, coping mechanism, not in a psychopathological way, but just something that they're able to get through the experience. How much does that play in future uh, contact is still a question. But yes, 9 times out of 10, you just heard that last story I read, the guy was 9 years old. Okay. And there seems to be, if you're going to be contacted, it's usually when you're pretty young, and then they keep following you. Um, and so this next one here is an interesting case that we just got. From a lady, um, and she says in her that this thing happened to her from uh, early on up till 10 years old, and then again from 21 to 30, she's had a lot of experiences. For 11 weeks, I have had constant ongoing communication and interaction with extraterrestrial beings who use black triangular craft. It's been a roller coaster. First exciting and exhilarating, then terrifying and overwhelming. My experience has fluctuated. They have abducted me, run tests on me, both physically and mentally, and observed me day and night. They are also interested in my child. She told me she feels them touch her when she plays video games, and she sees them in the sky at school and at recess. I have my conversations with my daughter about this on video, so people can't say I'm making her say these things. They have been teaching me certain psychological techniques and gifts. It all seemed intriguing and like a once in a lifetime opportunity, but now I feel as if this presence may be parasitic. The past few nights, it feels as if they are snaking their way under my skin, from my forehead to my eyes, like bugs under the skin. The way they make me feel makes me wonder if they will never go away, if I stay complacent and allow them to be here. I want them to leave us alone so that my daughter and I can resume our normal lives. This is a typical thing, especially when a child is involved with it. This, the mother instinct comes out, and the last thing she wants to have happen is her child being affected by this. We live right next to a cemetery. I've been pulled into the cemetery on a couple of occasions, and they presented themselves to me there. I have seen them in 7 different forms, most clearly at the cemetery, most often as light beings or silhouettes in my room. They will not or cannot materialize completely in my room. For 11 weeks, they have formed a relationship, but I am tired. I need a break from them to live a normal life. I have told them telepathically to leave. I've asked nicely. I've gotten angry. I'm burnt out and at a loss for what to do. They say I'm going on a journey and have been teaching me how to understand, control, and access portals. I fear that if I continue down this path, I will somehow do something irreparable. I asked them where my journey will take me. They said, not where, when. Basically, she wants the communication to stop. She wants to, but she has no one to call. There's no professionals who can help me with this. Medical professionals will say I'm schizophrenic. MUFON doesn't believe me. The FBI hung up on me. No one in my life believes me. No one will help me. So for my sake, hell, for my child's sake, let's pretend you believe me. We are suffering because these beings are putting too much on our shoulders. I need a break. I'm sure my kid needs a break. How do I get them to leave? It's a whole fleet of them above me at all times. I have video and other evidence I have been documenting for 2 months. I have no reason to attempt a hoax. I moved here, and she mentions where she is, but I'm not going to say, in order to start a new chapter of life. This isn't what I had in mind. My roommates are experiencing things. My daughter is an experiencer, which come to find out she's known them longer, been in contact with them longer than I have. My dad is having strange nightmares. I have physical reminders that these things are not made up in my mind. My daughter and I do not share a hallucination. So what's my next step? And that's when our EST people get involved with that and start talking to them and trying to understand uh, how best to help them and getting this phenomena to stop.
That really is the big purpose of it all. How do you get them to stop? And I don't know if we can. What about some people talk about, using or invoking the name of Jesus Christ?
Hmm.
That
Yes.
seems to work for
Yeah.
some people.
Yeah. Anne Druffel wrote a book a number of years ago, How to Defend Yourself Against Alien Abduction. And she compiled about 9 different ways people that claim to have been able to stop this contact utilized. But the big one that comes up time and time again, as you say, is utilizing the name of Jesus Christ. Uh, and to me, that's very interesting because, of course, there are people in government that feel that all these things are demons, and so if that's the case, then they'd probably be not happy with you throwing the name Jesus Christ out. Uh, but it's fascinating. I mean, that's another thing that needs to be looked at as to why does that help? We don't
Makes
have all the answers, believe me, we don't.
Oh, I fully agree with you there. It's very tough to find answers to it. We got 5 minutes to go
Mhm.
before we have to go to break here at the bottom of
Yep.
the hour. Our
Mhm.
good friend Les Velez from Opus Network is here tonight. This lady who had everybody hang up on her.
Mhm.
When you hear that, do you think that my initial reaction is maybe there is a little bit of a mental health issue there rather
Mhm.
than rather
Right.
than taking it seriously.
Right.
How do you decide whether or not that's a true case?
Right.
Or because MUFON does have competent people, the FBI or doctors or psychologists, I could
Mhm.
see them hanging up on her,
Mhm.
right? But in this case, just your thoughts on that. How do you take this as a competent story?
Well, what we do is, like I say, these people that are in our experiencer support team have a lot of experience working with people like this. And it becomes obvious. I mean, just based on the way she presented this, I mean, I totally believe that her and her daughter are having some kind of experience. There's no question about it in my mind. I think that uh, once you start talking to these people, and she even mentions it, and a lot of them, they don't really want to talk to people about it because they don't want to be considered to be crazy. All right, and you look at this type of a case, and you start talking to them, and you understand that you got to hear what their voice is saying, how it's coming across. And when you have people that have worked with people like this, you get a sense of whether or not they need something beyond that. And and I mentioned this earlier, that we have recommended people that they should probably see a psychiatrist or a psychologist to get further help. Um, but this case, just from my gut and reading this, I believe that it's legitimate. It's legitimate. That she wants this to stop. Definitely wants this to stop, and she doesn't know where to turn. And so she finally found us, and so we'll try to help her as best we can. And if we do find out that after talking to her, um, that we feel that she should get some further help, we'll recommend it.
That would be great. Has her daughter ever come out and talked about it publicly?
No, I don't know yet. I have no idea. I mean, I just literally got this a couple of days ago.
Oh, man.
So this is fresh off the press, as it were. Yeah.
Man.
Yeah.
How many cases do you see in a month?
Well, we get one probably at least 2 or 3 a week. 2 or 3 a week. And
And
so
and out of those, how many do you think are legit?
I would say that that most of them are legit. Most of them are legit. We have had only a few in the 3 decades that we've worked where we felt that maybe just a handful, maximum 2 handfuls. That's it. Maybe that's all. Uh,
A lot of people though, Les would look at that and say, well, maybe you're not being tough enough on
Oh
these cases.
well, it's possible. I don't know what that means. What tough enough means. But no, I mean the bottom line is when people come to us, we listen to what they have to say. Uh, we are here to help as best we can with the tools that we have. And as I said, if we feel that these people have an ulterior motive of some sort, that they're not being honest with us, then we'll cut them off. We have dumped 2 or 3 people, again, not that many, uh, that we felt were just not being truthful.
Yeah, because there's always somebody looking for that 15 minutes of fame, thinking that if they
Yeah,
tell
but
you their story.
yeah, but they won't get it from us. They're not going to get famous with us. We're only here to help. We're not going to, plaster their story somewhere. Although my book does have like 25 stories, but these are people that are still in our support group,
Right, right.
and
Les,
most of
I'm
them,
gonna get you
most
to
of them.
hold on right there because we are going to
Uh,
go to break here
uh,
at the bottom of the hour, and we're gonna take some audience questions. So if you're in our YouTube chat or on X, put your questions in capital letters. I will get to them. Try and get to them all. Les Velez from opusnetwork.org. If you've had an alien encounter, this is the group you want to talk to. Coming up next on Spaced Out Radio. Stay tuned. The second half of the show coming up right after this.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with your host, Dave Scott.
All right, Les, we are clear.
All right.
There we go. Bunch of audience questions coming up after this.
Okay, cool. Yeah, it's I've had that question asked before, how do you tell if this guy is a wacko, and is trying to pull the wool over your eyes or something like that. And not many people come to us that way. We've had a few,
Right.
but very few.
I would agree with you on that. Like, I think of the hundreds of guests that I've had on this show, and there's only been about 2 or 3 that have come on that I just really did not believe, or you could tell that they were just, lack of a better term, full of shit. You know what I'm saying? I could say that because we're off the air, right?
Okay, good.
Our YouTube audience can hear us, but
Mhm.
I'm saying on the radio side of everything, I think they were just looking for 15 minutes of fame. That's it.
Mhm.
And I think that they, that for the majority of people out there who come to who look for a place like yours, or even listen to a show like mine, I think that they are realistically looking for an outlet to know that they're not crazy. And I
Exactly.
think they are telling the truth. And I
Mhm.
think that number is a lot lower on the people making it up than what we perceive.
We definitely get people that feel they're going crazy, and they've already gone to a psychologist or a psychiatrist, and the mental health practitioner tells them that they don't have a psychopathology. They're not crazy. So then what? Where the hell do you go then? If,
I
that's
had a guy a number of years ago. I'm pretty sure he still listens, but he's never in our chat room. And he was a prison guard in a maximum security prison. And all of a sudden, the Greys started out of nowhere, the Greys started taking him like between 3 and 5 times a week,
Hmm.
to the point where he couldn't even sleep. And he was very, very suicidal off of that.
Hmm.
Very suicidal. And he just happened to find our show and noticed that there was other people out there
Mhm.
that were in the same boat. And, it calmed him down. It got rid of those thoughts. I talked to him a few times on the phone, just to kind of say, hey,
Yeah.
man, like, you're not alone here. You're
Right.
not alone. Right. Very religious, spiritual man. The
Mhm.
Jesus Christ invocation did not work for him.
Yeah.
So,
Wow.
one second. Terry Hall, how you doing, buddy? Give us a mustache update if you don't mind. Tell us about that gorgeous lip blade.
What actually happened to him then after that, if that didn't work?
He said after a couple of months, once he started breathing it in and out
Mhm.
and just trying to relax on it, he was able to start controlling it, and they started taking him less and less.
Hmm.
So
No, that's good.
yeah, it's very cool. Right. Let me just see something here. Where are we here? I'd really appreciate to try and get into back up to where we are with 100 thumbs up minimum, if you guys don't mind. I believe we are at we're at 97 or 87 right now. So if you haven't given us a thumbs up, it helps with the algorithms, guys. It really helps with the algorithms. So please take the time, give us a thumbs up. And after the show, make a comment down below. If you don't mind, we'd greatly appreciate it. Tell us how you liked it or whatever. Maybe you didn't like it. That's okay too.
Oh, no.
Big thank you tonight to Trucker Andrew, T-Bone, and Sally Alka for our super chats. Thank you to our new subscribers who've tuned on in. And don't forget, you can join our YouTube membership along with shopping at our store. Here we go.
Hi, Sally.
We're into the second half of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you very much for tuning us on in wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hello to everyone listening in, and reminder to you that if you're just tuning us in, you can check out our archives for free on YouTube or any major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com, we have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. You can follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Here we go. Les Velez, opusnetwork.org is our website, or his website rather, where you can literally file your story. You can do it. Doesn't cost you anything. They'll get you the help you need if you feel you've had an alien abduction encounter or ET contact. Les, thank you very much for tuning us in.
Well, thank you, Dave, for being here with me. And thank you for being on your show.
All right. Let's start with Polly here. She's over in Israel. She is asking, is the human empathy taught to hybrid babies as a path for future connection between the species?
The human empathy thought to hybrid babies as path to future connection between the species. That's an interesting question. Well, of course, the hybrid situation and mothers claiming that their fetuses have disappeared, that's certainly a connection. One of our board members, Geraldine Orozco, she's the mother of 21 hybrids, and so that is a major connection. And I think, people say, well, what is the purpose of this? Well, there's a couple of schools of thought. One is that this is something that they need to do to propagate their species. All right. And the other is that this is a way for them to peacefully integrate themselves into our civilization without taking out their ray guns and shooting people. So, if you want to read about the hybrid situation, you read David Jacobs' books on that. He says the latest ones are so much like us that you can't tell them apart. And there's another book that talks about hybrids called Rachel's Eyes. And one of our board members did the hypnosis work with this woman who's supposedly her daughter went to school in Northern California college with a hybrid that was visited by military people and given special food. So the hybrid thing, which we didn't really talk about tonight, is fascinating. So thank you for the question.
All right, let's get to another question here. Let's go to Jules. Would AI be considered left-brained? If so, doesn't the left brain interpreter tend to lie to make sense with the available information?
Oh, wow. That's a good question. AI can be anything. It could be left brain. It could be right brain. It depends on your, you know, which one you're using. As I mentioned, we talked about this earlier about the dangers of AI in the sense that there's lawsuits going on right now against some of these companies because uh, kids have committed suicide based on what AI was telling them. So you know, I don't really consider left brain or right brain. I think it's a question of, is it general information or is this specific information? Because our board has talked about the fact that, do we want to use AI in any way, shape, or form? And I think the only way we would use AI is if there was a um, frequently asked question type of a situation where we had pat answers, and that's it. We're not going to let this thing run wild. So anyway,
All right, let's move on here. Let's go to Kim. Les, can you say more about the honesty trend you
uh,
mentioned at the beginning of
yeah,
the show?
okay, that's good. Yeah, I flipped that out there, kind of uh, half half baked, I guess, if you will. Um, what we've done is we've looked at characteristics of the entities. We're trying to get a much broader picture of what it is that these entities, what traits do they exhibit, and that's what we've been trying to find out. And the thing that came back, and there was like 16 different criteria, which will be written up in this paper that we're doing. Um, and honesty was like the number one thing that came back. That these people felt that this entity was being honest with them, and they believed them, which may be a good thing or could be a bad thing too. So that and some of the other traits that, and I can't remember what they are right off the top of my head right now, but the honesty thing was the number one thing.
All right, let's move on. Let's go to Joe in California. Why do aliens leave razor blade type scratches on your legs when they abduct you, always in a pattern of 3?
Yeah, little dots, triangular shaped dots. That's a very common one. Marks on the body. Um, well, there's been situations where people have talked about the fact that they weren't involved with these aliens per se, but demons, which have left scratch marks on people's bodies. And that's another factor in all of this. So, we're not only, we talked about angels and things of that nature, but on the flip side is demons, and they seem to be real as well. Both sides seem to be real. So, why they do that? Maybe it's like we brand cattle, and
Maybe.
maybe something like that as well. This is
I've
my
noticed,
this is my human. You can't have him.
right, right. I've noticed the 3-dot pattern on
Hmm.
a lot of people. I've had friends even send me pictures of the 3-dot pattern. But
Hmm.
Joe here is kind of an anomaly because he always tries to deny that he's got aliens, which he does. But I say that Joe is one of my longest listeners on this show, and he sent me photos of these long cat-like scratches,
Hmm.
you know, and where he doesn't have a cat, right?
Right.
Got a
Yeah.
dog, not a cat though. And those type of scratches, if they happened in the middle of the night, you would feel that pain. You know what I'm saying? You just wouldn't sleep
You would
through it.
think so. You would think so. You would
Yeah.
think so.
Have you?
However,
Okay. Anyway,
I think it's, you know, s- some of these states that we get into, um, you know, you may not realize that it's going on for whatever reason. You may be in such a deep state of relaxation or dreaming or what have you, that you may not feel it at the time. But I think, again, all of this is mind-boggling. I mean, we're talking about a reality that is just totally different than what we normally access during our lives. This is a whole new ball game that we're trying to get our minds around, and it's not easy. It's not easy, and whether or not we ever get our brains around this thing fully is a big question.
It is weird. Let's go to Amy here. How do you come to accept it? ET contact, that is.
Mhm.
It would make me angry. Like, knock it off, fella.
Yep. Yep. Well, I think the thing is that, and first of all, it depends on where you're at with the experience. Are you in the beginning phases of the experience, or near, into 10 or 20 experiences? The latter portion, people usually already start to accept it after going through many, many iterations of the experience. They begin to accept it. If, in fact, they're having absolutely horrible experience and they want it to stop, this is where we try to get them information, as Dave mentioned earlier, about utilizing the name of Jesus Christ, which seems to work in a lot of cases, not in all cases. And then we also recommend that book by Ann Druffel, how to defend yourself against alien abduction, where she talks about 9 different ways to get it to stop. But the bottom line is that 70 to 80% of the people feel that they don't want these things to stop. So that smaller majority or minority is are people that are still fighting it. And then what we try to do is help them best we can to give them the tools to make it stop.
Has Opus ever given a mathematical statistic about people who believe their contact is good rather than negative, much like free
Oh
experiencers
yeah.
did?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. We're matter of fact, there's been a number of studies. The free study came out with I think in the high 70s, maybe even 80% of the people don't want the experience to stop. On our first phase of our omega-4 study, we found the same thing. And so there's a lot of correlation between the various studies, where a majority of the people don't want it to stop.
Nicole is asking, Les, what are your thoughts on quantum healing hypnosis techniques, QHHT, like
Yeah,
what was
yeah,
developed by Dolores
yeah,
Cannon?
yeah. That seems to be a very successful tool. That we EMDR is another one that seems to be very useful, and then this QHHT um, is you hear a lot of people that have gone through that say that it really helped them out to get down to, you know, what experiences they've had. So yeah, it's a good method.
Can you figure out what's happening to you when it comes to hypnosis?
Can you figure out what's happening to you using hypnosis? Well, it depends. Some cases, yeah, people have revelations, major revelations. One of the people in my book, Adam, uh, talks about utilizing hypnosis, and it massively helped him to get down to the bottom of his experience, and being able to then integrate that into his life, and he's come out the other side of this experience very positive.
All right, let's go over next to T-Bone here. Why are some people implanted?
Well, I think that it depends on the group that the person gets involved with, whether or not they're they're looking to track this person because what is the implant? Okay, let me pause a second here and get some information on this implant business. Now that you brought it up. Okay, so let's talk about the implant first. No inflammatory or rejection reaction by the body to this foreign body, which is unusual. You get a little splinter in your finger and right away you know it's there, right? No visible portal of entry. Collections of specialized nerve endings surrounding the object. An outer coating of ceramic biological material. A metallic phase where inorganic metal becomes biological tissue. Emissions of radio waves which are deep space frequencies in the FM band. So these things are transmitting. Okay. Somebody is listening. Tracking. Electromagnetic fields in excess of 10 milligauss. Composition of meteoric iron 66. Rare earth metals such as U-236, a single isotope of uranium existing by itself, as well as elements such as uridium, which is very rare and hard to find in the Earth's crust. This one is really interesting. Non-terrestrial isotopic ratios indicating the involved elements did not come from Earth. Now, he goes on even further. Metallic caverns that are no larger than the diameter of one atom. I mean, these implants are remarkable, and this was done by Dr. Roger Lear. He had 17 people that they took these implants out of, and it's all written up in his book, The Alien and the Scalpel, which is a good read, and you should check that out. You want to talk about implants. And so why are people implanted? Sure. Is it a tracking device? Is it something I heard the other day that it's monitoring pollution levels in our bodies? For what purpose? Why are they doing that? So is this some type of an experiment? So it's probably not happening to everybody. Certainly not happening to everybody, but for some reason, this particular person or whoever got the implant is being tracked for some purpose or being monitored for some purpose.
What about the ones that move?
Well, yeah, Whitley Strieber's moved. Matter
Yeah.
of fact, he was going to take it out, and then he listens to this thing. It talks to him. This implant talks to him. He's written a number of things based on this thing talking to him.
It's unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. All right, let's go to another question here. Let's go to Tony in the UK, who is asking, Les, is there any recognition at all by any authorities in any way about this subject?
Oh, sure there is. Yeah, but it's stuff that they're not coming out publicly and saying anything about it, but they know. Lou Elizondo, okay, he knows about this. He knows people are being abducted. He's interviewed military people. Matter of fact, he was, excuse me, he was here in Northern California to interview Terry Lovelace for his show that he had on the History Channel, and that never got aired, which was interesting. But I was able to have lunch with him that day that he was here, because Terry is on our advisory board, and he's a good friend of mine actually. And he was telling us about the fact that they think they know how these objects operate, what technology they utilize, and I think they want to look at this whole topic in a realm of nuts and bolts. They don't want to deal with the abduction thing yet because they want to focus on just what are these objects, where are they coming from, what's their purpose. Everybody knows the military knows. Terry was interviewed by the military when he had his experience, and his buddy when they were abducted in Devil's Den, Arkansas, went on a camping trip. And yeah, so there's authorities that know all about this, but they haven't come out publicly. So that's what we're trying to do now with this disclosure movement. And matter of fact, I think that's a misnomer. It should be the confirmation movement to try to get these guys to confirm the fact that this is actually going on.
Right. Absolutely. All right. Moving on here. So we got about 3.5 minutes. Let's go to Paramarv. You mentioned helping people to stop the encounters.
Mm-hmm.
Do you ever have people contact you in hopes of starting encounters with ETs?
Well, that's a good question. And as a matter of fact, we have had people in the past that have come to us and saying, I'm really interested in trying to communicate with these entities. How do I go about that? Well, one of the things, I guess, there's been a number of groups out there. One of them is Greer's CE5 group that has tried to communicate. And there's a couple of other groups out there that supposedly are able to meditate and bring these things in. So there evidently are ways to, get things to. I have that reminds me of a story. Good friend of mine, Ruben Oriarte, who's a member of MUFON as well, and he went over to the UK to look at some crop circles, and he was with a group of people, and they were all kind of not paying much attention and just having a good time. And he really wanted to see something, and so he went off by himself and started to think about the fact that I would like to have something come up and show me that you're here and what you're doing. And long story short, these three objects came up from behind a hill. They were goldish in color. And the next day, I guess he was looking at a map of the area where these things came up, and it was called Golden Ball Hill. And these things look like golden balls. So, so he basically put the thought out there that I would like to see something, and they showed up. So if your spirit is positive and you do this politely, it seems to be the way to do it, that you might be able to contact something. Now, on the other hand, you might not want to be involved with them. So you got to think about that, the consequences of actually making contact.
Very true. Les, we got about a minute to go here. Unfortunately, we're not going to get to all the questions that we wanted to tonight. But for everybody out there who is an ET contactee or abductee or thinks they are, where can they reach you?
Yeah, the best way to do it is go to opusnetwork.org. And if you're looking for support, there's a support tab there you can punch. Or if you just want to, we're also looking for more mental health practitioners and hypnotherapists. So you can contact us through the contact button on the site. And then we'll start talking to you and bring you into the fold. And then we also have a YouTube channel ourselves. You go to Opus, a separate word, network, and I do interviews myself.
You are wonderful. Les, you're one of the great guys out there in this field, and much prosperity to you. And once again, thank you for serving, and all the best on Veterans Day to you. Coming up next on Spaced Out Radio, we have Swamp Dweller. Then the Wizard returns for the UFO report. We will be right back, everybody.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with your host, Dave Scott.
Thank you, Les. I appreciate you, buddy.
Thank you, Dave. I appreciate you. And thank you for what you do because it's important. Shows like yours gets the word out on various
you.
topics. I really appreciate it.
Anytime you want to come on, you just let me know.
All right, Dave. Have a good night.
All right, buddy. Take care. Les Velez, everybody. He will be in Vegas with us as well in spring. He will. Be right back, everybody. About a minute to go here. Let's get over to our good friend, the Wizard. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing fantastic, Dave. Fantastic.
Right on. Right. E. Dungarian, how you doing? Good to see you. Good morning, Skip Tamalou. And once again, a big thank you to all the veterans out there who have served in the past or are currently serving, who are listening in right now. Veterans Day in the United States, Remembrance Day in the Commonwealth. Thank you very much for your service. We really do appreciate and love each and every one of you around here at Spaced Out Radio. So thank you very, very much. And C. Styles, welcome to SOR Chat. And, oh, I know you. Yeah, you've been here. Thank you tonight to Andrew, T-Bone, and Sally for our lone super chats. We greatly appreciate it. YouTube membership is open. You can shop at our store on our website. And here we go, everybody. Here we go with the third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you very much for tuning us in wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on every major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. You can follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Refossilate. Refossilate is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Let's head to the swamp.
Hello and welcome to Spaced Out Radio's Swamp. I'm Swamp Dweller, and tonight I'm going to take you on a mystic journey of the unknown, sharing tales of monsters, legends, and nightmares. Welcome to the Spaced Out Radio Swamp. When I was 14, I used to hang out with my friend Tony, who lived in a trailer park. We used to spend time around a couple cute girls, one of which I was interested in. She was 13. For the sake of not divulging names, I will call them Carrie, the one I liked, and Hope. One day, I went to see if Carrie wanted to hang out, and she wasn't home. So Tony and I mosey over to Hope's house, and I knock on the door. A balding man in his late 40s or 50s opens the door after a few-minute wait and points a .45 at my head. He said something in the effect,
"If you ever come knocking here again, I'll shoot you."
I noped the hell out of there and decided I didn't like the guy, or knocking on his door much anyway. Later that week, I visited my dad, who worked at the mental ward at the Salem Penitentiary in Oregon, the one where One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest was filmed. Somehow, the conversation over dinner drew me to casually mention, "Some people are so crazy," to which my dad was not thrilled to hear about that encounter. My dad asked me for the man's phone number, which I had because I also happened to have Hope's number. He called the guy, whose name was Rick, the old gunslinging creepazoid. He offered the man a place in his facility, with mention for the fact that he is allowed to fill out mandatory referral forms, which upon submission require action by the recipient to evaluate their own mental health. Ricky quickly apologized and guaranteed the incident would not be repeated. 2 or 3 days later, on a Saturday at around 8 p.m., I got the call during dinner at my mom's house where I lived. It was Rick. He apologized to me profusely and wanted to make it up to me. He suggested that I come over and play a game of pool with him. Being headstrong, cocky, and far from naive child, there was some cursing, laughing, and a big old nope. Sometime later, around the period of a few weeks or a month, Rick made the front page. He had been sexually soliciting children, which I learned from other sources included Carrie and Hope, his own daughter, to older men, a female friend who was close with both girls, but overweight and apparently never targeted, mentioned to me that Rick had a giant container of vitamin E lotion and no pool table. Pool with an over-aggressive, gun-happy creepazour on a Saturday evening, yeah, I'd rather have something else to do than spend my night with one of those people.
Thank you, Swamp Dweller, for another creepy story. If you want more just like that, head on over to YouTube, type in Swamp Dweller, hit subscribe, ring that bell. Thousands of stories that'll creep you out each and every night. Time for the UFO report. Here's the wizard.
Space Out Radio presents a UFO report. The UFO wizard makes his presence known. Just ready to go.
Here we go. The wizard, Josh Rutledge, here on Spaced Out Radio. We love it when he's here from the beautiful state of Arizona. Josh, thank you for coming on in.
Thanks for having me again, Dave. You know, twice a week. It's a fantastic time. I look forward to it every single week.
Me too, my man. Me too. And you know, it's something that is kind of important to what we do around here. You're kind of important. We like
well,
you.
Thank you. Thank you. I feel important.
You should. You totally should. That's what we do.
Yeah.
By the way, quick story here.
Yep.
The United States Marine Corps celebrating its 250th anniversary. Wow, 250 years. That's a quarter of a millennia.
Yeah.
Wow. One of the best UFO stories that I have heard about the United States Marine Corps happened in 2021 in a training mission at 29 Palms, where 50 soldiers witnessed a black triangle fly on over, hover there, and then fly off and disappear. Have you heard this one?
I have. I think it's also they recorded some footage of like 5 lights in the distance that was kind of similar, you know, 5 lights in the distance being similar to the Phoenix Lights event. And so there's a correlation there that I think some people drew between Phoenix Lights and what they saw. But yeah, there's that footage out there. Like you said, it's not only that they saw a triangle, that they saw these 5 lights. And what's crazy is a lot of people said, oh, they're just mistakenly identifying flares. I'm like, they're freaking Marines. They know what flares look like. They're not gonna misidentify flares and call it a UFO.
I would agree with you on that. And the other thing that we have to be reminiscent of too, this is in restricted airspace.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. It's in the Mojave Desert. There are a lot of UFO sightings around this area. Whether they're UFOs or UAP, we don't know, right? There's a lot of testing that goes on around there because Lockheed Skunk Works is there, right, for instance. There's a lot of strange happenings. So my question to you is, with this sighting back in 2021 for the United States Marine Corps, thank you to all the Marines and everybody who has served. Do you think that there's a possibility that maybe this wasn't a UFO, but some sort of human technology that was maybe doing some testing at that exact same time?
I mean, it's very possible, but I also, and I caution the use of UFO as a descriptor, right? A UFO is unidentified by nature. So until we identify it as anything other than unidentified, it's a UFO. It's using a UFO as the descriptor of an alien craft is an oxymoron. You can't have an unidentified flying object and then say it's a UFO, ergo an alien craft. So until we can identify it, we have to treat it as unknown. And it's very possible that it is stuff we built. I watched an interview today with Russ Coulthart talking about, he says he's got eyewitness testimony that Lockheed Martin was conducting blue on blue exercises at the Nimitz incident in 2004. So, if we have reverse engineered, and we're actually able to fly some of this stuff. Fly being with pilots in seats, or psionics type activity. It stands to reason that they would test some of this stuff in wide open desert, and then maybe even turn the lights on for people to see.
And that is a big point right there. This one I believe would be inconclusive of what it might be.
Yeah.
All because of the fact that we don't know, because of the airspace it was in. This is why, no offense to Skywatcher, I had a really big issue with them when they went and did their UFO Skywatch at 29 Palms, or in the vicinity of that area. I mean, when they're testing black projects, they are testing them in areas like that. And they're testing them at night. They're not doing it during the day. They're doing it at night.
Yeah. And I mean, NASA just, I don't know if you saw it or not, but the Associated Press put out a couple of videos where NASA is testing one of its newest jets, the X-59, I believe is the tag number. And they're working on reducing the amount of noise that is produced at takeoff, and also during achieving a supersonic flight, in hopes that eventually they'll be able to equip commercial airliners with the same technology, and so we could actually have supersonic commercial jets flying around and getting this. This kind of goes back to the story you and I talked about, I think it was last week or the week before, around the possibility of like an ion type drive, but this is just using just a different way of building an engine, still burning fuel just like every other engine we produce, but it's just a different way of making the engine, a different way of the aerodynamics. The plane looks crazy. There's a camera mounted above the canopy. The pilot can't even see the front of the nose of the plane. He has to rely on the camera that provides him a forward-facing view in the cockpit. But maybe something like that even probably is being tested in that area. And that plane, that NASA plane, is being tested at the Lockheed Martin facility in the Palm 21, was it 21 Palms? Yeah. Palmdale. So
it's an incredible piece. And this is why, Josh, I think we have to be ultimately careful where we are seeing UFOs and or UAP. I mean, you don't draw a difference. I do. That's one of our agree to disagree moments there, but and that's quite okay. We're allowed to have civil conversation while agreeing to disagree. The idea behind what I am saying, though, is I think it's more credible when we have, say, a farmer in the middle of Nebraska or Saskatchewan, or in the mountains of British Columbia or Washington State, where there are no military bases around, where all of a sudden they have an encounter with something odd and interesting, rather than if you're, say, where you and Shane Hurd were at Area 51 outside Rachel, Nevada, skywatching, or 29 Palms, like this incident, or what Skywatcher did. I think it becomes a little bit more convoluted when you're closer to those secret bases than when you're not.
No, I would agree. And Skywatcher they have some daytime footage, that they put out on their YouTube channel just before they went silent. So they are doing some stuff during the day as well. But even things during the day, it's very far off in the distance. They're still doing daytime stuff close to those facilities. And I think that because of like AI, and because of the because we I think we talked about this last week, because we don't really see or film orbs or craft up close anymore. It's almost like they've realized that when they get close to us, they cause us harm, and so they're keeping their distance. Which, hey, that's cool, but also that means we don't really have any close-up shots, and so that coupled with AI and deep fakes and things, it makes me wonder if the phenomena is evolving in the way it is interacting with us, because we've become so skeptical of anything that we see in video footage as potentially being a hoax.
And that is very true. That is very true. And I think that's a point that we're going to end up seeing over the next little bit here, over the next couple years, and if not longer, the more as AI advances. I agree with you on that.
It's like for me, the interaction with the phenomena has evolved to be like seeing entities in my backyard or at a skywatch that I did this past weekend with Phoenix MUFON. I saw some stuff in the sky, but there was a lot of skepticism about the things that we saw in the sky, and so it was almost like well, here, I'll give you something that was impossible for you to be skeptical about. And, we snapped the photo, and here's this clear as day entity standing photobombed our picture. So that's where I'm thinking, at least for me, the phenomena is evolving its interaction. Because I am, even lights in the sky that I know are not satellites, I still am it's hard for me to get past the skeptical, analytical side of me that wants to try to rule out every single possible solution that it could be.
I agree. We need to be able to do that. But how do we do it when we don't even know what's flying in our sky? That's the problem.
Yeah. Well, but we've always had that situation. I mean, back when they were testing the Blackbird and the stealth bombers and stealth fighters and everything. I mean, we're always going to have situations where there are things flying or maneuvering in our skies that we're not aware of as the general public. And I think that's just, I don't know. I don't know that it's okay, but I think it's just the reality of, as companies, independent contractors, or the government, as they seek to advance technology, they're going to want to keep it a secret until they feel like they've perfected it, and then they're going to make it known. And so, unfortunately, that means that we have to endure kind of this, a never-ending layer of secrecy around a lot of the things in the sky. Now, that being said, I do think that even testing like that should be restricted to, MOAs, which is the military operation area, I think is what it stands for. And they're all over the country, a lot of them out here in the Southwest, but they should be restricted to MOAs and not really exceed the boundaries of the MOA, so that there's no confusion as to, is this a unknown military craft operating in civilian airspace? Because you talk about a lot of the language around the UAP investigations in Congress is around safety to airline pilots. Well, you can't have Lockheed Martin, testing a reverse engineered craft in the middle of civilian airspace. That is definitely a safety concern.
Do you think then the public now, more so in the United States than probably anywhere else, knows the difference between what they see in the night sky as a satellite, as a UFO, as an airliner, as a drone? What do you think?
I think that people are becoming more educated on the topic, but I would say that if you were to take a survey of 100 people and show them pictures of prosaic, like I said, drone, airplane, whatever, flying at night, whatever, and ask them what they thought it was, I would bet that a low percentage would actually know what it was. That's like somebody asked me the other night if I thought all of the New Jersey drone stuff was just misidentification. And I said, I think some of it might have been legitimate, but I think a lot of it was misidentification because it hit the local media. People who normally don't look up all of a sudden were looking up, and they were seeing things in the night sky that they've never really seen before, and they were interpreting that as these mysterious drones. But I think a lot of it, probably 95 to 98% of what was reported in the New Jersey drone was probably misidentification from people who are not used to seeing what's in the night sky.
It's getting harder for people, though. It really is.
It is.
I think.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard for investigators, because of, just it's really hard. As an investigator, the thing that I always say to people I'm investigating a case for is I wasn't there. So if you saw this light and you tried to video it, but it didn't really show up on the video that you submitted or the picture that you submitted, but you felt a connection to it, at the end of the day, I'm going to look up and see, was there any air traffic? Was there any satellites? What was the astronomical stuff that was going on? But if there's nothing that just, is 90% explainable to what you saw, then I have to rule it as an unknown. And, for a lot of people that are seeking, a definitive answer, what do you think it was? What do you think it could be? It could be frustrating for them to get from, us investigators to say, look, all I can tell you is what it's not. But at the end of the day, we don't necessarily have answers. We just know it's not, these things that are man-made or these things that are atmospheric, conditions. And here's what it isn't. I think the best thing that people could do, if they really wanted to learn, if they really wanted to educate themselves, there's like a handful of apps that they can install on their phone that would, like Stellarium, for example, to know what constellations, what stars, what planets are in the night sky. Stellarium actually, also shows satellites that are moving around and the International Space Station and when it flies over. Flight Radar 24 or Flight Aware or ADS-B shows you all the air traffic in the area. If you pay for the Flight Radar 24 version, it'll actually also show you military jets when they're within range of a commercial airport, because FAA requires them to turn on their transponder when they're within a certain range of a commercial airport. So there's things like that you could do to educate yourself, to become an investigator, even if an amateur investigator of your own sightings, to help educate yourself on what these things are in the night sky, how to identify them, and what's really unknown and what isn't.
Well, let's take this into the next break, because I know you got some UFO stories that you want to get to for our great audience in Spaced Out Radio Land. The UFO Wizard, Josh Rutledge, and the UFO Report continue on this show into the final half hour. Stay tuned, everybody.
This is Spaced Out Radio and your host, Dave Scott.
By the way, also the 50th anniversary of the Edmund Fitzgerald sinking. and the 50th anniversary of Travis Walton coming back.
Yeah. You know, it's not an anniversary, but the the Air Force in the U.S. was created in 1947, September of 1947, to be exact. Just a few months after Roswell.
Yeah, that's interesting too.
And another little tidbit: Space Force was established just a few months after the New York Times article about the Nimitz and the Go Fast and all that kind of stuff. Coincidence? I don't know. Where was the headquarters? Where was the main headquarters for the Air Force, you might ask? Wright-Patterson Air Force Base.
That's right.
Where is all the Roswell stuff supposedly taken? Wright-Patterson Air Force Base.
Yeah.
When they created the new UAP task force, they gave it to the Navy. Why? Because we're observing stuff that is transmedium. It goes between the water, the land, and the sea. That's the Navy and the Marines.
Look at you. Just an encyclopedia of UFO knowledge. This is why he's showing off right now. The reason why I would call him the wizard. That's good times, man.
Yep.
God, I think it's time for a new office chair. I am so uncomfortable tonight.
Really? I've had this chair is one of those it's a gaming chair.
Yeah.
It's like Secret Lab, I think, is the manufacturer.
Mm-hmm.
It's not bad, but it's a little stiff. Like it's just like it's not bad. It's like, I work from home, so I sit in this chair all day long. So it's not bad. I don't get sore or anything, but it is a little stiff at times, and I kind of like I want to, the 1994 Lazy Boy, you fall into it and it like, swaddles you and puts you to sleep.
Yeah.
But I guess if I had a chair like that, I probably would fall asleep while I'm at work. So that's probably not a good idea.
That's the way this chair used to be. And I think my fat butt has made it not so much anymore. All right. We have about 90 seconds.
Okay.
Maybe I just need to find another pillow.
You should look at Purple.
Purple?
Yeah, the people who make the purple mattresses.
Yeah.
They sell the purple squishy stuff that sits on top of their mattresses. They sell it as chair cushions.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And I actually had some for a car I used to have because the driver's seat was not comfortable for long trips.
Right.
And throw that in there. There you go.
Rock and roll, buddy. All right, we got 30 seconds. Thank you to Shally, T-Bone, Andrew. Thank you, everybody, for stepping up, giving us a bunch of thumbs up there to push us well over 100 tonight. Appreciate it. That really helps with our algorithms. And don't forget, after the show, leave a comment. what you liked, what you didn't like, whatever it may be. That's quite okay. We're just glad you're here. Our store on our website is always open. We do not have ugly swag, people. No ugly swag. So check it on out. Here we go. Here we go with the final half hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. Good to have you with us. My name is Dave Scott. We greatly appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hey, we want to remind all of you that if you've missed most of this show or others, our archives are always free on YouTube or any major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com, we have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. You can follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram, Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. We got the wizard here. We call him Josh Rutledge in human name. And, of course, he is with MUFON in Arizona. He is a lover of everything UFO, even though he claims to be a UAP guy. But we won't hold that against him. Josh, how you doing, buddy?
Yeah, I'm doing great. I am not a UAP guy. I just want UFOs to remain unidentified. If you think it's an alien craft, call it an alien craft. Hey, I think I saw an alien craft. Don't think I think I saw a UFO. That's all I don't care. I'll split hairs on that another time, I guess. Right. I don't have that many hairs left to split, so.
Mm-hmm.
But
all right, let's get right to it, my friend. What do you got for us tonight?
All right, so got some 3i Atlas news. It came out from around the sun, from our perspective, and it may have exploded into 12 or so smaller chunks. All emitting somewhere around 7 or so of their own kind of cosmic jets, if you will, towards the sun. Some are towards the sun, some are away from the sun. Avi's position is that these jets that are now being kind of ejected they penetrate over 1 million kilometers through the solar wind. But he also says, kind of his going back to his potential that it's alien craft, alien tech. He said if it was burning its thrusters coming out the other side of the sun, it would appear to us the same way. So he was quoted as saying it did maneuver. The boost to its velocity was equivalent to a jet carrying 5 billion tons of matter.
No way.
Yeah. So yeah. I don't know. I mean, I still most of the information that I'm getting in a non scientific manner points to it being some sort of like a cosmic space whale, if you will, and it just flows through the universe, and it is responsible for spreading life throughout the universe. So that's possible too. Maybe it's depositing its eggs around our sun. Who knows? There also was a really big solar flare, mass ejection that happened earlier today. So it'd be, is it coincidence that big coronal mass ejection happened right after 3i Atlas passed by the sun and kind of separated into 12 or so individual pieces? I don't know.
I'm telling you, man, I still think there's something weird with this one. I really do.
Yep. I mean, it does. I really do not like the threat narrative you and I have talked about. We don't like the threat narrative, but it really does harken back to that, that line from Independence Day where they're like, is now broken up into 12 or so individual pieces and they're all headed towards Earth. Um, it's almost like that movie somehow foretold the future. um, so yeah, it's really interesting. Well, of course, we'll have to see how it evolves. Some more. The one thing Avi did say, and NASA is still holding out. They have not released the images that they captured when it passed by Mars, nor have they released the images that they've been capturing once it came out from the other side of the sun. We've got some, amateur photographs from folks that are out taking, pictures with the telescope, and like European Space Agency and the India Space Agency have also released some photos. But we're still waiting. We're holding out for the stuff from NASA, and Avi is becoming frustrated, I believe, based on his demeanor in some of these interviews, that NASA has not released those photos.
Why do you think? Why do you think NASA continues to put itself in these type of situations?
I don't know. It was the same thing when they had their big press conference around, their version of the UAP report, where they analyzed the go fast and the gimbal and everything, and basically said, nothing to see here. Move along, nothing to see here. I don't know. I guess my big concern is that NASA of the space race was cutting edge. But I feel like NASA of modern times is trying to find relevancy in the new space race. And I don't know if that's left them bitter or what, but it's rather frustrating that they aren't more forthcoming. You would think that as a scientific, organization, it would be in their best interest to release, if they're concerned that Avi is talking about this as the possibility of it being alien tech, the quickest and easiest way to quieten him down is to release the photos that, tell us 100% or at least maybe 80% that that's not possible or that's not the case. So it's just really odd in their behavior the last few years. And like I said, maybe it's because they're trying to figure out how NASA fits into this new kind of space economy that's started up with, India and China, and I think Italy, have all put rovers on the moon now. India, I believe, and China are planning, projects to go to Mars. So it's just, what is NASA's role in this new kind of global space economy? I think that's maybe where they're trying to figure it out, and so maybe they're a little clutch in the details. It's almost like they're thinking about themselves as a corporation, and they don't want to release anything that would hint at their intellectual property.
Yeah, it is a scary time watching how much they are really trying to be a part of it. I mean, NASA could do so much more if they really cared about the whole UFO story. They would tell us what's in their closets.
Yeah.
They don't. They and a lot of people don't understand that NASA is basically two companies in one, where you have your public persona sending people to the moon, the space shuttle program, everything to do with space agency. But then you have your military side, your secret side of NASA that nobody pays attention to. And I believe that is really where the story is. And the fact that they have already released so much, but fail to acknowledge it, whether
Yeah.
it's radio transmissions, whether it's pilot testimony, astronaut testimony, engineer testimony, they have it all, but they just don't do it.
Well, and you make a good point. And that NASA is a government agency, so well, I don't know. They're funded by the government, but they're supposed to be independent. But I would imagine that they are structured the same way many government agencies are, and so they are very likely very compartmentalized. The left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing. I mean, heck, probably the index finger on the left hand doesn't know what the thumb on the left hand is doing. And so you're right. I mean, they've got all these different sensors and things that are capturing all kinds of data. They've got astronaut testimony and so on and so forth. But for me, it kind of goes back to what do they gain from pulling all the information together and voluntarily releasing it? Well, I mean, in the case of NASA, I think they would gain some public trust in that NASA is going to do the best thing from a space agency scientific perspective. They're not going to let politics determine what they think is best, for humanity to know about what they found. But unfortunately, I think NASA, since probably the 80s, has become a rather political organization.
I would agree with you there. I would totally agree. And they don't have the public's interest at heart. And I
No.
think that's where they failed.
Yep. I know NASA is still planning to do, the Artemis missions to put, people on the moon and build colonies on the moon and all of that kind of stuff. But, is there going to be enough, public interest in us doing those things? Maybe if they release video or, astronaut testimony that talks about the craft they saw when they did the Apollo missions, I bet you the people would be interested in going back to the moon then.
I bet you too.
So real quick, I've got kind of a interesting slash I don't know, funny, silly type story that I wanted to tell.
Please do.
So the new Pope that we got, I think last year, has appointed a new astronomer over their observatory side of the Vatican. And this individual, his name is Father Richard D'Souza. And he says that if humans ever make contact with intelligent life and an alien asked to be baptized, he would baptize them.
Isn't that just reaffirming what Pope Francis had said
in 2014? Yeah. It is, but I think it's interesting that, it's like somebody that's not the Pope, I guess, saying this, because I don't know how it works in the Catholic Church and stuff. I've never been Catholic. I've got some friends that are Catholic, but like I feel like the Pope puts out his messages and his direction, but then each individual kind of lieutenant, I don't know what the right word is, bishop, I don't know, whatever, the cardinals and bishops and I don't know how it all works, but
you just got to look at the chessboard.
Well, where are the rooks then? But like they all just kind of take, it's kind of like the CEO of a company puts out his big strategic vision, and then it's up for the people in the company to figure out how to make that come to fruition. I feel like it's the same. Like the Pope puts out, let's do this, let's work on this, and then it's up for all the upper and middle management folks to figure out how to actually make it work. So, but he did say that he asked about the search for life, And he said that the search for life beyond Earth could yield answers within the next 30 years, as science is pushing for that.
It makes you wonder whether or not he knows something that we don't.
Yeah, perhaps. I mean, there was an image on X that somebody had commented about, President Trump making a press conference statement at 11 o'clock in the morning. And he said it's probably about the aliens. And the Age of Disclosure official account replied and said that happens later this year. So it does, we've talked about how there's a strong possibility that, well, I don't know. I'll just back up. So, in the Brookings report, probably most people are familiar with, in the 60s, did an assessment, and they found that humans weren't ready to know about life outside of Earth. And so I would imagine that anytime you have a presentation like that, with that conclusion, there's usually a follow-up question of, well, how do we get them ready? And I feel like that's actually what's been happening over the last, since the 60s. It's been a slow, methodical, basically saturation of, alien type methodologies in movies and books and TV and everything else to slowly bring us into the possibility of meeting aliens face to face and not immediately wanting to shoot them in the face. And I would imagine that as a part of that plan, you would involve the great spiritual leaders of the world, because faith for a lot of the world is very important. And so why wouldn't you involve the Catholic Church in helping to reinforce that it's okay if aliens come to visit us, because they're all God's children, or whatever, whatever the message is going to be. So again, I think that that's probably what's been happening since the 60s, maybe, the 70s, is a slow trickle of, information being fed into the brains of, society via media and, supported from spiritual leaders. So maybe this guy does know more than we do. And maybe, that thing from Age of Disclosure is correct. Maybe later this year we will get some sort of an official statement about ETs or whatever the case may be. And hopefully it's not a threat narrative.
Well, I mean, here's the thing. We don't know what the Vatican is holding in their archives. We don't know. They don't let it out. And I guess when I look at it, there has to be something more than just alien species potentially visiting Earth. There's too many cover-ups, too many secrets, that they either have absolutely nothing or they have something, but they are afraid to bring the public into this conversation. And it's an important conversation. Probably the next biggest conversation since Jesus Christ himself was back on walking the earth.
Yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, there is some sort of correlation that we see between places like the governments of the world, namely the US government, and places like the Vatican that have all of these symbols and knowledge, where they have, the Vatican is very interested in space.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Why would they be interested in space? That still doesn't make sense to me, unless they're looking for something.
Yeah. Or, like you said, they already know the answer, and they're just making sure that they're fully prepared so that they can control the narrative of, if you think about it, the countries of the world have their their citizens that make up that country, and the most that they can ever influence potentially is their citizens. But The Catholic Church has members across the globe, in every country, on every continent, probably even Antarctica. So the messaging or communication from the Vatican has a greater potential influence than all 197 or something like that countries having to individually engage with their citizens.
Mm-hmm. I would agree. We got about a minute to go here, minute and a half to go. I mean, there is no way that any of these guys ever open up their vaults.
No. I would be really interesting to see the chronovisor. If I could ever get access to the Vatican vaults, I would want to see the chronovisor.
That would be fun.
It would be.
That would be fun.
You know, the chronovisor lets you look back in history. Where would you look to?
I'm not a religious guy, but I would look back to the time of Christ.
Oh.
That would just be extremely important to me.
I think I would look at like the Younger Dryas and see if there were actually human advanced civilizations before the Younger Dryas.
That would be cool. That would be very cool.
That would really support Graham Hancock's work.
That's if it exists.
That's if it exists. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Josh, where can people find you? 20 seconds.
Yep. You can go to my website, ourmysticjourneys.com. That's OUR mysticjourneys.com. From there, my YouTube, all my podcast work, everything that I've got going on, you can find on my website.
Thank you very much, the Wizard, as we say goodnight to you. And hello to Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal, rocking in the background with Little Brother is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at work, at home, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone in our chat rooms tonight. YouTube, Twitch, LGAP, Facebook, Spreaker, LinkedIn, the Space Travelers Club, and on X at hashtag Spaced Out Radio. Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and Bigfoot Broadcasting Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us, because together, my friends, we're watching. We own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes, the Woo train has docked for the night, but soon, my friends, we shall ride again. Your seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, we've got room for them too. Good night, everybody. Good job tonight, my friend.
Yep. It was fun.
Yeah, I remembered to hit record today, which is nice.
You know, you can pull your live videos off of YouTube.
The audio when we transfer it over sounds like shit.
Really?
Yeah, it really does.
That sucks.
We've tried that before. It just didn't sound great.
All right. Well, I'm gonna go to bed. I can get up and go to the gym in the morning. Second week doing this thing.
All right, buddy. You go have fun.
Talk to y'all later.
See you, bud. Thank you for everything.
Yeah.
Have a good night. Josh Rutledge, everybody. Just let me have my name, my back turned to you here for a second. hell was the website again? All of a sudden, I can't remember the website. Why did I not remember that? All right. Good stuff tonight, people. Oh, that popped up. Go here. Long day. Long day. All right, what you got for me, people? What you got for me? I have, believe it or not, Paramarv, Tim James totally went off the grid while he's trying to heal his brain. He really is. Hi, Gailey. How you doing? Love you back. Yeah. None of us have heard from Tim. I'm gonna go stop in there at his work probably in the next week or two. Um, I miss the dude. Miss him a lot. And I know he misses you guys. I mean, how could you not? Will do, Tim Mothman, and your goatee. Tim will always be family here, and I hope he comes back. I really do hope once he's feeling better that he comes back. Hopefully it's sooner rather than later. I really don't know. Yeah, Tim took himself right off of social media. Oh. That's what I think. AAO. Samantha lives 3 hours north of me. No, I didn't break another Tim. Tim had some health issues from the past that came up. He had a number of concussions when he was younger, and it started affecting him over the last number of months. And that's where he decided he just needed to back away from everything. Has anybody bought tickets for the Caribou Con yet? Got your VIP tickets? Who's thinking of coming? Jay Truth Seeker, what happened to your lady friends up here? Never see them in the chat room anymore. All right, this one here. Before I save this, I gotta edit this. Yeah. Three shits.
The bottom line is I learned so much more working with the people in the support group and listening to their stories, which were pretty amazing.
Before we continue on with more UFO talk and ET contact, I would be remiss because this care to share a
I have an interesting story that I always have to look up in the direction where God sits and say I was a very, very lucky person. I went through the ROTC program at the University of Vermont and was commissioned as second lieutenant, and immediately went to Fort Sill, Oklahoma, to do my officer's training in artillery. And this was near the end of the Vietnam situation, early 70s. And a lot of the guys in my group went straight over to Vietnam out of that training, 3 months of training. And I got orders to go to Fort Dix as a training officer in New Jersey. And I had 2-year active and 4 years reserve time. And as it turned out, I was there for 18 months, and saying to myself, oh my goodness, I'm not going to get orders for Vietnam. I'm going to spend it all here at Fort Dix, which at the time was that the Vietnam situation was horrible. I mean, they were fragging officers, they're throwing hand grenades down the bunkers because the troops didn't want to go out in the field anymore because of such a shit show.
What's the first one?
It's a shit show. Shit show. This is such a show. So at that point, when I had this thought, I got my orders for Vietnam. And I was married at the time, and my wife and my dog, I had a camper, VW camper bus, and we camped across the country. And she was going to stay with her sister near San Jose while I was over in Nam. And in this little town next to San Jose called Los Gatos, they had a wine festival that was going on. So my wife and I were there every day crying into our wine, if you will, that I was going over to Vietnam. And about a week later, a week before I was supposed to ship out, I got a call from a buddy of mine at battalion headquarters back at Dix. And he says, this major at the Pentagon needs to talk to you. So I said, okay. So I called the guy up, and he says, your tour duty's been cut by 2 months. Therefore, we have to give you a choice of whether or not you want to go to Vietnam. And he says, if you don't go, somebody's going to have to go in your place. And I said, well, I hope the next guy is as lucky as I am, because I'm not going, because this was a terrible situation at the time. So he says, then where do you want to be stationed? I said, well, I'm out here on the West Coast. Fort Ord would be a nice place to go. It's close. I get my orders. They sent me all the way back to Fort Dix. They didn't have a training slot open for me. The only thing that was open was running a battalion mess hall, which I did, which I knew nothing about. But the master sergeants in this man's service know all the games and all how to work everything. So I just stayed out of his way, let him run it. So the story is that to this day, I thank God that my service, I trained a lot of people. I worked with a lot of drill sergeants and did a lot of that kind of thing. But for me personally, not having to go over there was just miraculous. To this day, I don't know how that happened. You know, it just was phenomenal. I was very lucky. So, and I thank to this day all the guys that went over from my class that never came back. You know, and feel for their families that they had to go over there and participate in a war that was horrible, absolutely horrible. And of course, the outcome of that was when all these guys came back that did come back, they were treated like shit. They were treated like shit. And so that's very, very, they were treated like.
Yes, J Truth Seeker, all prices are in Canadian dollars. Which means if you're coming from the US, you're probably going to save about 39% right now. Why did that close? Where did that go? Did I close that off? Oh, no, I did not. There it is. Copy. Paste this one. Samantha Mowat lives about 3 hours north of me. Yeah, that's what I'm saying, Paramarv. So you're going to be saving a lot of money if you're coming up from the U.S. Caribou is the animal, and caribou is the region. Question is which one is which? Double O for the region, OU for the animal. Thank you, Trucker Andrew. Like this. Tomorrow night on the show, Steve Bassett will be here for a discussion about whether or not disclosure is dead. Love Steve Bassett. He's a great ambassador for what we do. Thank you tonight to Trucker Andrew, T-Bone, and Sally Alka for the super chats. Thank you to everybody who given us a thumbs up. Do me a favor. After the show, leave a comment. Let us know what you liked. And we'll see you all tomorrow. To all the veterans out there, have a fantastic, as best you can, in remembering your friends and those before and those after on Veterans Day or Remembrance Day up here in Canada and in the Commonwealth. We love all of you here. You always have a home here at Spaced Out Radio. And let us know where you served. We'll see you all tomorrow night, everybody. Much love from the Caribou at SOR headquarters. We'll see you tomorrow. Oh, I got to hit this one first. Bye.
Stay healthy, my friend.
You too.
If you need bail money, give me a call.
Always, Dad. Take care.
You too.